Is this thing on? Oh, we got some lights going on, reflecting off of my bald head. Hope this thing is working. Looks like it's working. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's on a fantastic, you know the drill. Hey, listen, really stoked about getting Stormy, and I want to bring you guys some of the story behind this and kind of where this all came from. What was the reason why I bought the truck that I did? Would I have ordered it any different way? All of that. So definitely want to visit with you guys about that. Like I say, it's pretty exciting when you bring home something new. And in this case, she's going to be getting to work probably within the next couple of months as everything gets transitioned in and out. Not only for work stuff, but for the channel as well. I want to bring you guys something a little bit different. You know, it's always something about fast, but this is just stuff. It's really more daily driver, the regular ride that you've got to run around in all the time, giving that thing a bit of a refresh and, you know, just kind of sprucing it up a little bit. And that's really where we're taking Stormy. Nothing exaggerated, nothing crazy, nothing like that. Because I got to tell you guys something, that truck runs really nice the way that it sits. So, I don't really know where to start with this one, really, because I could start with the ride, the way that the way that the truck accelerates, just some of the reasons why. So let's just start off with all the good vibes with this truck. First of all, it is basically a truck that I built. At one point, I was trying to put together a tradesman, and frustrated by Dodge's order banks never really opening up and not having any real idea when I could actually order that truck, I didn't realize that throughout the course of me trying to order a tradesman, I would be money ahead by ordering a more expensive truck in the Lone Star. And the reason for that is because the Lone Stars are so heavily incentivized right now for this. Basically, it's a Labor Day sale that they're coming around with. The Lone Stars are so heavily incentivized that you would be like out of your head to even buy something else. Even if you want to reconfigure the interior like I'm going to do with leather seats and that rubber floor, I'm still money ahead by buying the higher end truck than the tradesman and taking taking all of the rebate money, which ended up being like $6,500 plus a couple of things that they threw in for free, like window tinting and what else they do? Oh, gas. But anyway, window tinting was something that they agreed to do for me too. So they got that taken care of. No BS, no nothing on the deal. Basically, I walked out of there with the equivalent of about $7,000 off of the sticker price, not just in the rebates, but in extra stuff in essence. So really cool, you know, a little bit off the price too. So it ended up working out really well. But the weird thing about it, so this is the funny thing. So I want to set the table for you and kind of walk you guys through how this all happened. It's actually a really cool story. So after basically learning on my own that I could actually do this, heavy incentives, and basically taught myself that I could get the Lone Star for a significantly lower price than even ordering a tradesman alone. What I did I built a few of them online, and I was like, man, I like the regular 5.7, but maybe the EcoBoost would be cool. I didn't really have a lot of experience with the EcoBoost. Buddy of mine bought one, and he loves the truck, and so it's like, yeah, okay, let's try building one with and without an EcoBoost, with and without like tonneau cover and bed liner, just because I can always do that on my own later on and just see what I can do and configure this thing. And I tried to figure out how I could configure it with a 321 gear. Can I even do that with a trailer controller? Anyway, long story short, I basically built Stormy. I think Stormy was after I experimented with the trucks, I think Stormy was 2 or 3. I think the second one was a 392 version of Stormy. And I got to thinking, so Stormy was number 3. And number 1 would have been more or less just an absolute stripped down version of a Lone Star. But with that, you could not get the trailer controller, didn't have the screen or anything like that. By the way, that 7-inch, uh, what T something, whatever it is, that screen is a must. If you're thinking about getting a RAM, you have to get that screen. It's $75. You're bananas crazy if you don't get it with whatever package it comes with. Anyway, so I basically built Stormy, except I didn't even know what that screen was. I didn't know that it was I knew that there was an option for the Uconnect, but I didn't realize there was actually also something cool for the dashboard. Had I known, obviously, I would have checked that box as well. In fact, I'd like to meet the guy that put my truck together and just shake his hand, because it's absolutely perfect for what I would have wanted. Now, the e-torque thing, I figured, what could it hurt? I mean, it's got some weird quirks to it. I wanted to learn more about that system and wanted to drive one and find out really what the driving is like, e-torque versus without an e-torque. And, I've got Buffy. She's a DS with a 5.7 and obviously no e-torque. And I can tell you that at low RPM, partial throttle tip in, like if you're just kind of rolling into the throttle kind of quick, you'll feel the truck kind of whoosh, and then the V8 kicks in. It's kind of weird. And I know I'm not explaining it the right way. But Matt over at Moe's explained it to me the best. He goes, it's kind of like it's got a pedal controller on it, where if you're at cruise, it seems to kick in. If I guess maybe it's a placebo effect, but at takeoff, it definitely kicks in, and you feel the truck just kind of woof forward. It's kind of neat. And the main thing I've got to get used to is just hitting that stop start killer button. I know that there's got to be some kind of a thing out already to make that problem go away, just with having to hit the button all the time. And obviously tuning is going to come a little bit later, but I got to tell you, the truck runs really, really good the way that it sits. And to that point, yes, I brought the Draggy on the test drive with that truck. And strangely enough, that I ended up getting an invalid test with the Draggy. I don't know if it was just where we were, or the fact that the truck kind of lit the tires up. It was hazing the tires all the way through first gear, and it kind of commanded a short shift, and it barked second, where it just went like that and kicked the truck out a little bit. Endearing quality, by the way. Put a big old smile on my face. Anyway, and that's with that truck not even really broken in at all. And I know this because I'm the only person that's ever actually driven Stormy. So check this out. When I was so let me get back to the story part of this and where all this thing came from. Sorry, I got way off on a tangent here. So I'm driving down the highway, and the dealership that I bought this truck at, Bayshore Dodge, this dealership has been a sponsor of Houston Raceway Park since I can't remember when they weren't a sponsor of Houston Raceway Park. And I thought, man, I wonder if they would have anything. And I just happened to be driving past the dealership and saw the sign. And I look over to my left, and there is a truck sitting in the lot it's an end cap truck. It's sitting at the very end, and it's freaking Stormy. I mean, I'm going, what the hell? So I go to the next exit, make the U-turn, and all I was thinking was, man, at least I'll know what the thing looks like. Because I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. And I pull into the dealership, and it's a 6-cylinder granite crystal, 18-inch wheels, 6-cylinder truck. And a real base interior. And so I was looking at it and checking it out, and sales guy walks up and goes, hey, can I help you? I was like, man, I like this truck. I like the look of this truck. It's kind of weird. I tried to build one, kind of building small talk with the guy. And so he goes, well, let's go inside and see what we've got. And I told him, I said, I haven't really got any experience with the e-torque trucks. I'd like to drive one. He goes, man, no sweat. Come on inside. We'll find you something. What are you looking for? And I said, man, look, find me an e-torque that just has no slip with 321 gears. He goes, all right, let me see what we got on the lot. He goes, it matter if it's a quad cab, crew cab. And I said, quad cab, if you got one, crew cab probably worked just fine. He goes, okay, cool. So he disappears, has one of the guys start looking for one. He goes, we found one. We just got it in. It's a cool. It still has all the plastic in it. But at least you can drive it. And I said, man, it's all good. I'm just here to drive the thing. So the sales guy disappears for a minute. They actually in the showroom have a 392 Rubicon or whatever Jeep. All right. So rare to see one of those in the wild. Anyway, I was checking that thing out, and here he comes pulling the truck around, and it's freaking Stormy. It's the truck that I built. And I just kind of went, what? So he pulls the truck around. He gets out and he's like, hey, come on out, check it out. So I go out there and he goes, what do you think? And I'm looking at it. I just said, man, it looks good. You know, it's exactly what I just got through telling you. I mean, it's like the guy, if I could have just picked the truck, it would have been that one. So I hop in and away we go. So we go on a quick test drive. I didn't really beat on the truck at all. I just took it up on the highway and ran around and came back, and that was it. And we test drove also a crew cab, which could have been my truck's upgraded. It was a step up from my truck version with a 392 gear with no slip. These guys were really cool. He's like, yeah, drive whatever you want. So I hop in the truck and take it for a spin, and it did what 392s do best. It, like lights in the first gear, and kind of sort of tried to command a quick short shift into second, and like, yeah, okay, 392, cool. But I said, all right, cool, man, thanks a lot. We'll see you. Well, then it's kind of funny. I got to thinking about that truck. I was going, I didn't really give that truck an opportunity. I didn't really run it all that hard. We mainly took it on the highway for a little bit. The truck rolled on the highway. I was like, man, this is awesome. And really kind of fell in love with just the way that the truck felt going down the highway. I thought, well, I really need to, let's see what I can do about getting the thing, from a dig. Let's see what this truck runs like. So now I had to hatch a plan. I want to see what this thing really runs like compared to Buffy, which you got to understand, Buffy is a good running DS, especially for what she is. So I grabbed the draggy and away we go. And look, it was pretty funny, but I get a different sales guy. My sales guy wasn't there that day. He was off that day. And so we hop in the truck and I just connect to the draggy, and she starts talking about 30 miles an hour, 60. We're pulling around. And I said, look, dude, I wanted to revisit this truck. I didn't really give it an opportunity to impress me or disappoint me. I wanted to see what this thing's going to do from a dig. And the sales guy's like, dude, do whatever, man. I don't care. I'm just along for the ride. And I said, you got it. So we pull around the U-turn, and I just told him, looking around, everybody's cool, no cop. All right. And I just watt the throttle, and she just starts hazing the tires all the way through first gear, fighting for traction, commanded a little bit of a short shift at $5,000. And the truck just like that was so just absolutely adorable. And I just was like, holy shit, this thing's quick. Like, it's legit quick on the street in 3,000 foot DA with rain coming in. I mean, high, ultra super high grains, humidity out the wazoo, crazy hot outside. And this thing is putting on a show with 321 gears. I was like, oh my God, I love this truck. But the funny thing is, the first time I had driven that truck, I kind of need to reset the stage for you. This is the thing. It was still in make ready mode or something like that. It even said it on the bottom of the dash. The radio didn't work. The only thing that did work was the speedometer, and that was about it. I didn't mess with the switches or anything else for the dash, but I mean, it was just literally off the truck. It looked like it was covered in plastic, seats all covered in plastic, console covered in plastic. Everything was just covered in plastic. It looked like it was like just it was funny. It looked weird. It was like, grandma's furniture in this thing. So anyway, the second time around, they had kind of gotten everything taken care of, but it was still in make ready. It hadn't gone through. It actually hadn't gone through any like dealer prep or anything like that. The truck had shown up, I think, the day before I drove it for the first time. So when I drove it, I was the first person to drive it that wasn't driving it onto or off of a ramp or, onto a truck. So the second time I test drove it, I was the first guy to drive it. Again, it was just kind of funny like that. By the time it was all said and done, I don't know how many miles were originally on the truck. I think it was listing it out at 10. It's like the lowest number you could put was 10. On the test drives that I took that truck on, I put 20 miles on that. No, I put 12 miles on the truck, and it had 22 miles on it when I picked it up. So anyway, lots of fun. It's really cool to be able to say that I have literally put every mile that is on that truck. I've put those miles on that truck. So that's pretty neat. But again, great dealer experience. These guys were super cool. Anything I asked for, they made sure they jumped through hoops to get it immediately for me. And just the mere mention, I think I'd mentioned, man, I'd love to get the windows tinted. You go, oh, you want the window too? Before you pick it up, consider it done. No charge. Really cool stuff like that goes a long way for me. So anyway, but the weird thing about it though is again, it was the exact truck that I built. It at 18-inch wheels, which I wanted. I did not want 20s. The right interior, everything about the truck is exactly how I would have wanted it, especially the screen, the dash, had I known that that was a thing. I have to admit that I'm just not that very well versed in DT Rams. I can tell you all you want to get bored with some of the DS stuff, but again, it was just a little bit different of a situation in this case. So, cool thing is that was able to work out the deal, get the truck, and been basically just putting break-in miles on the thing. And but one thing I did want to show, I think I already put everything back in the files here, but the weight difference between the DS and the DT is pretty significant. It's actually, if you're to compare truck for truck, it's probably somewhere in the 200, 220 maybe pound range. I can tell you that Stormy to Buffy, Stormy, the way that she sits right now is 120 pounds to the number lighter than the DS. But it's lighter, but it feels, now that I've had some time to drive it, it feels bigger. It's quieter, and the ride is altogether different. There is nothing that draws a comparison between the ride of the DT and, well, a tradesman DS, but still you get the idea, which, by the way, is the big reason, or a big reason, why I bought the truck. It just rode so well. I didn't realize the party trick of how well it rides is how well it handles. That thing grips corners like, I think I even said it in the previous video. It just absolutely just has no problem sticking to on ramps, off ramps, increasing radius, decreasing radius. It felt like I was driving the Hellcat. And what the funny thing is, having everything in the screen kind of makes it feel like a little bit Hellcat-y, if you will. You can change the themes and all that stuff with it too. So again, super cool. Really enjoyed it. And to me, it's like the best kept secret, or the worst kept secret, I should say, is just how good the Ram is. Now, I don't want to turn this chat into me just shitting all over the Ford, or me just lamenting about, the GM stuff. But if we're going to talk about it, I'll talk about it. If y'all have questions about why I chose one over the other, I have no problem talking about that. I will do a video coming up why I did not buy the Ford F-150, but I will tell you guys this. I showed up the last evening that I went back to the Ford dealership for the third time, in mind, I'm going after work. Okay. So it's not like I've got all the time in the world to do this. I get there and my time's compressed. I've got to get whatever I'm going to get done in a very small amount of time. The third time I went to that Ford dealership, I had my checkbook with me, guys. All BS and aside, I had my checkbook with me. I had one stipulation, and all I needed was for somebody to understand what I was talking about and go, oh, yeah, we'll do that. No sweat. Had that have been the case, I'd have been putting ink on paper that day. Obviously, it didn't work out like that, and I'm stoked that it didn't. So more than happy, more than satisfied, and actually, if I'm being honest, really surprised with how much I ended up liking the Ram more than the Ford. Like, I can't really put it into words how much more I liked it than the Ford, and for a whole lot of really bizarre reasons. So again, I can get into that, but it's pretty cool. The truck that I got was basically the truck the guy pulled around to the front of the dealership for me to test drive was one of the ones that I had built, but better. Like, whoever put it together knew what was up with that screen. Whoever put that thing together, they put a trailer controller in it, which is one of the weird little gadgets that I wanted to have in the truck. Because if we decided we want to, go rent one of the small trailers to, a travel trailer type deal with electric brakes, I want to be able to hook it up. Figure if it's an option like that, yeah, of course you put it on there. Can't hurt anything, right? Anyway, let me get with you guys real quick. I want to get make sure we get everybody in here. Colby's in saying, "What's up, dude? What's up, Colby?" Sister's in. Say, hey, congrats on the new ride, buddy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Colby's saying that new truck smell. Yes, the most expensive fragrance in the world. Tad's saying, I brought my son home from the hospital. He's my first child. Oh, congratulations. Very awesome. Very cool. Got a new Mason coming into the world. I like it. Put on my glasses of reading here. Oh, Lord, what the hell going on these things? Eric saying, good evening, Professor B. Good evening, Eric. Got the flex. Ardo saying, hey, B, love your truck. Thank you. Saying congratulations. I appreciate that. Chuck's in. What's up, buddy? Saying, what's up, B? Love the truck. Look forward to the new content it will create. Yes, I am too. Donald's in saying, nice ride, Mr. B. Thank you, sir. Ardell saying, I got $5,000 in rebates on my Ram. Very nice. Hey, man, listen. Oh, yeah. Ardell brings up a really good point. So, yes, the Ram, I got a lot of incentives, and I got some freebies and some perks thrown in there as well. So, again, make sure you did a good job by me. It's a fair deal, fair back and forth. Both of us got what we wanted, so I'm stoked about that. But I got a really good deal, honest, okay? I really did, between the money back and the tent and, some other – it worked out really good. But here's the thing. Ram was really happy. Like, the guys over there were like, oh, hey, man, listen, can we get this? And can we also get that? And, working. Okay, well, what about, okay, what other kind of rebate can we get you? Oh, yeah, there's this one too. And did you do this? And, oh, yeah, we can find that one for you too. And the guys went mining for rebates for me. And they drug up like another $1,500 more or something like that than even the website was showing. And which was cool, but this is the point that I'm getting to. Ford wanted to charge me sticker and make me feel good about buying that thing at sticker. GM wanted to try to do the same thing, saying, well, we may be able to get around the market correction. Well, you guys know about how well that went over, and could not possibly believe what I was hearing, primarily because somebody's going out to have some fun. I couldn't believe what I was hearing because I'm buying a truck. I mean, you incentivize trucks. You want to move product. You want to move and be part of the market. You got to do market stuff and not have market corrections when your competition, namely Ram, who's building a phenomenal product is saying, oh yeah, we understand, we get it. We're not going to try to break it off and, have you walking out of here with a prolapsed asshole by the time it's all said and done. We're going to take care of you, man. I mean, yeah, it's weird. We'll do as much as we can. And that's what made me feel good about the deal. And they did. They gave me a deal that I'd feel good about in any economy, much less one where it's all funky. So, again, because Ram is the only manufacturer stepping up with rebates and incentives, because Ram, the product itself is awesome, but it's an awesome product at an awesome price with a lot of value for the dollar. I jumped on it, and it's the exact truck that I wanted, and that's the crazy thing. Now, I got to tell you guys, I did go with the 18-inch wheels because I like the way they look better. I got to say, a lot of guys had asked me, are you getting the 20s? Are you going to get the night edition? And because they literally had one there, they had a night edition exactly like my truck, except it had the big console and that big O screen right there in the middle. But aside from that, it was basically my truck. And I was like, no, I like the 18s because I love the way the 18s look. I like the beefier looking sidewall. And I like the fact that tire just looks like a big block on the back of that thing. It's just nice and big and chunky and a big old, I just want to grab it. So I like that about it. Where I just didn't get that cool look that I think I like anyway. I like the taller sidewall, a beefier looking tire. Tires are less expensive on the 18s, which is just kind of a side benefit. I do go through quite a bit of tires, and the ride is better, and they just grip better. They're more compliant. They just did everything. And so last night I took this thing around Loop 610, which is the loop that goes around Houston. And I was just having a ball with this thing. And its happiest cruise mile per hour is 85 or 90. I mean, it just wants to blast down the highway. So I tell you what, but that's the reason why I didn't go that route. I wanted the big console, basically the jumper seat more than anything else, but I wanted that console. And I wanted the 18-inch wheels, and that's why I didn't buy it. I mean, the thing was sitting right there. I could have, and I just really wanted the truck that I bought. So, and it was just so cool that the guy just wheels the thing around. It's still got the plastic on it. So anyway, more on that story. So the little build sheet guys, which are they're back in the truck, the little build sheets were in the back of the seat. And I pulled one out and I was looking at it and saw the build date 713, and I'm like, oh shit, she's an H-Town girl. For you guys that aren't aware, 713 is the area code for Houston, Texas, the old school area code for Houston, Texas. And so it's like, oh man, that's pretty cool. So 713, old school Texas, Houston, Texas, Houston girl. And so that was pretty cool. And again, with it being the exact truck, I really couldn't have found a better scenario. It's just kind of meant to be for me to find that one, completely by accident, by the way. Superstock saying, good evening, Mr. B. Oh, I don't have the shade. I never have my shades in here. He's got the cadence right, though. Congratulations on a new member of the group. Thank you, sir. Eric saying, congrats on the new truck. Thank you. Thank you. Ardell said, hey, B, love your truck. Congratulations. Thank you, brother. Chuck saying, what up, B? Love the truck. Look for, to the new contract it'll create. Man, I must have skipped somebody, or I'm just going back. Don't say, nice ride, Mr. B. Thank you. I think I've already done these. Ardell got the 5 large. Very nice. Oh, here we go. Okay. Greg saying I put a carbon cap back on my 20 Bighorn. Sounds awesome. Didn't know if you heard of them. Great truck, B. Thank you very much. I have heard of them. I am teetering right now on Corsa and MagnaFlow. Those are the two that I'm looking at, mainly because I just don't want any drone. I'd like for it to be nice and deep, just with no drone. And I think that would be a good way to go. I know that there's a couple of companies that build the mid muffler delete, and so that could be, where I say mid, I kind of is a mid muffler because you have the reso, the muffler, and then the resos at the back. But that could end up being an option. It's a significantly less expensive option, and but it's we'll see. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out which one I like the most. But the Corsa is on the top of the list. Marco's in saying, got my red eye. I'm driving it right now. Nice. Little Mopar chat live with the wine in the background. Very cool. Good job, Marco. Raging Bull saying, congrats on the new truck, dude. Thank you very much, Raging. Raging Bull saying it was meant to be. Absolutely. I agree with that. Man, this phone keeps going off. Sorry, let me get this thing plugged in here. Duke Levi is saying, what truck did he get? He got a Ram 1500 DT Lone Star Longhorn Level 1 321 no slip with the e-torque. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not kidding when I say that I had my checkbook in my hand walking into that Ford dealership, and I was mildly disappointed that I didn't get a chance to use it. Roy's saying, great truck, B. Thank you very much. You know what? But all things happen for a reason, and this is the reason why they happen. Absolutely. More than I could not imagine being happier with another truck. Summer Night saying, sub B, got your Ram? Hell yeah, I like it. Thank you, buddy. Summer Night saying 5'7"? Yes, absolutely. Tuxedo Black is asking, is Stormy a boy or a girl? Stormy is a girl. She is a lady. Roy Morgan. And Summer saying, nice, Stormy truck. Yes. So the funny thing about it, so guys, yeah, this is, so Stormy is keeping up with a long-held tradition that always seems to happen like this for me. Stormy was literally brought home in the middle of a freaking storm. It was pouring down rain. And so I didn't get a chance to get her to the scales until the next day because it was raining. Chandelier, a.k.a. Revlon. My wife drove her home in the middle of a freaking storm as well. Pretty much every one of the cars that I've ever had really good luck with, or that I actually really liked or fell in love with, were brought home in the rain. 2 of the 3 Vipers were in the rain. What else was in the rain? My Blue Lightning was driven home in the rain. And so, yeah, it's weird. The cars that I remember the most fondly are the ones that I did some crazy stuff in were all driven home in the rain. So she's keeping the tradition alive and well. So I like it. It was pretty cool though. Let's go, man. I know she's going to be good. I'm bringing her home in the middle of a rainstorm. Let's see. Someone's saying, someone's hanging out with Roy. Someone's saying, that's awesome. Now that's a good dealership. Yeah. Listen, guys. And the cool thing about it is that they have really been a supporter of the drag strip of Houston Raceway Park for, God, man, it's as long as I can remember. And I can't remember them not being a banner sponsor of the dealership. So that was cool too. Support the people that support the stuff that you're into, and that is a big reason, it just kind of dawned on me. I was like, I didn't give Bayshore a shot. What the hell? And, it all just worked out perfectly. Great deal on the truck, great guys to do business with, just all in all. And really, to be fair, every Dodge Ram dealership that I've gone to, all of the people have been really good. And with the odd exception here and there, I would be I would be lying to you if I said I didn't recommend all of them on some level, either because their service department was really good, their sales staff was really good. And in this case, great service department, sales staff jumped on everything quickly and really accommodating. And on top of that, long time, and I mean banner supporter of the drag strip. So, and here's something else. One thing to consider for somebody like me and for us, really, the group I think that I'm talking to would agree with this. You kind of want to work with car guys, right? You want to work with somebody that kind of gets it. I'm not saying that my sales guys were all big into cars or whatever. Their finance guys, really impressive with what he's been able to do with some of his vehicles. But, these guys were really good. They were understanding, very accommodating, and I really have to give them credit. It was really cool being able to have that experience and to be a part of it again with a dealership that has supported our lifestyle for so long. So again, just all together worked out great. Sorry to say, it sounds like the stars align for you on this truck. It kind of does. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? John the Baptist, I like to say good evening and best of luck with the truck. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ardell saying, hey, good point. B4 did the same to me. They thought they were giving me a deal at sticker price. I said, no way. The Dodge dealer went over and above to get me a great deal. And that's the thing. Sovereign saying, get the MagnaFlow. Dude, I'm telling you, that's going to be probably, it's at the top of the list right now. Devin saying, congrats on the new truck. My brother just, he got a Borla attack on his, no drone, but it's deep, very loud. Do you prefer the 321 gears over the 392? Even the 321 will roast the tires in second gear hits. Yeah. So here's the thing. I have a lot of mixed feelings between the 392 and the 321 in a DS, in the Classic, for example, because you are picking one or the other. You're not picking both. You're not getting both. You either get really strong acceleration with the 392 gears, but you lose a gear on the highway. You lose the ability to rip, and I mean rip at 70 mile per hour, that 70-ish mile per hour hit. The 392, you hit it and it goes whap, and it goes almost immediately to shift, and then it falls into fifth gear. The reason why that's a problem is because the 321 drops into third, and it's basically the same ratio with a 321 in third that the fourth is with a 392. So they're dead even until the 392 shifts. The 321 will pull out a little bit on it, and when it hits fourth, it is deuces, son, and will step out of that 392's life. It is noticeably different. And when I say that it's noticeably different, I can tell you this. I can say the 321, my truck, Stormy, in the worst weather possible, was hazing the tires in first gear and did a little wiggle walking out when it shifted into second. The 392 truck, it hazed the tire to kind of pedal into it. Even then, it did command a short shift, but just not as bad because I was kind of driving the truck a little bit. It hit second, pulled strong in second, hit third, ran strong in third. The problem is if you were to have had them both lined up on the street, not talking about a prepared drag racing surface or anything like that, but on the street, that 321, while the 392 is trying to get its life figured out, the 321 is running out of its life. And when that 321 hits second, it's strong in second. But when it hits third, that's when everything starts moving more towards the 392, the 321 versus the 392. And of course, any kind of hit, any kind of driving situation at like 45 miles per hour, 321 is okay. So the 321, if you're asking which one I like better, The 321 will feel a little bit lazy around 30 to 40 miles an hour on partial throttle. But somewhere around 40 miles an hour, and really, I guess like 20, a little bit lower than that, like 26, 27. I did a full video. In fact, I can tell you if I've got it still pulled up here. Yeah, I do. I just can't put it up on the screen. The 321 at 25 miles an hour is, I mean, it's nasty on that downshift if you watt the thing. 35 miles per hour is when the 392 is going to be nasty on a downshift. 45 miles per hour for the 321 is pretty much peace out. 55 is strong for the 392 gear. But at 65 miles an hour, when you're driving along on the highway, and again, by the way, at 45 miles an hour, that's city traffic. 25 miles an hour, that's city traffic. Okay. It's the 321 has this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of personality. In that, yeah, you can still kind of tip into it, and you'll feel it advancing. And with my truck, it actually, even on partial throttle in the speeds that you wouldn't think it'd be very good, it's because of the more aggressive gears. It feels like my old DS with 392s down low, and it just absolutely freight trains on the big end. So to give you an example, 65 miles an hour, real hard hit on a 321. It's not in a 392. 70 miles an hour, they're identical. But you hit them both in 70, the 321 will shift at about 76, 77 miles an hour. The 392 will shift at about 75, but then its next gear will carry it. It's going to be downshifting into third for the 321, fourth gear for the 392. When that 392 hits fifth, you'll feel it lay over. It just kind of runs out of breath, and it gets itself up to 95, 97, 98, 99 miles an hour. The 321, I mean, dude, it's right in the middle of its sweet spot, and it freaking freight trains to 96, 97, 98 miles an hour when it shifts. It is so strong on that end from a highway hit. It's just, so you get the city hit at 25-ish miles an hour. And believe me, it'll haze the hell out of the tires at that point, if not command a short shift. I had to put it in there because it's a low number. But you get the 35 in the 392, so it's still kind of close. But at 45, that, kind of that mid, like in the city, like feeder road type of mile an hour. Again, 321. And these are mile an hours that I was taking seriously because these are all these scenarios that I came together with. So I did a full video on HP 70 versus HP 75, 321 versus 392 by the numbers. And that's the video, and that's the spreadsheet that I'm talking about that I'm referencing here. So anyway, hopefully that answers the question. Like I say, I went with a 321. This truck really isn't going to see any drag strip time, but it will be hot rodded a little bit. And of course, it'll eventually find its way onto the drag strip. But the idea is that it will have the 321 gear because that's the gear that puts it in the most favorable position with the absolute best performance for what I need this truck to do. It just so happens that it will fry the tires from a dig. So it's like getting the best of both worlds with these new trucks. Devin's also asking, what are your thoughts on the 3.0 twin turbo i6 Hurricane? What vehicles do you think it'll go into, and predicted reliability? Thanks for your input. Absolutely. So I just got through putting together a video. So if you go into my playlists, I think it's under my thoughts. It's also just under normal videos where I talk in depth about that Hurricane twin turbo inline six and what I thought about it. One of the things, let me see if I can find it in here. Unfortunately, I just can't share the screen, so I'm not able to pull that whatever you call it, the technology. That program doesn't work with live feeds, unfortunately. Let me see if I can find it real quick. What did I save that as? Hang on just a second, guys. Let me find it. Here, specific output. Here we go. Forgot where I put it on my desktop. So one of the things, and I have no problem chatting about this, the problem that I have about the 30HO is, let me sort this by this here. So one of the issues that I have with a 30HO is that it takes a lot of boost for that engine to make its advertised power, especially when you compare it to something like a 3.5 liter EcoBoost or even a 2.7 EcoBoost, which is a known very, very good engine. And, you know, iron block, high nickel alloy for that 2.7. It's hard to argue against the 2.7, especially for a street truck. That 2.7 does a really good job. And it gets away with only 16.5 pounds of boost. The 3.0 standard output, the Hurricane standard output, obviously it makes more horsepower, but it's going to be 400 horsepower, roughly 450 pound-feet of torque at 22 pounds of boost. And it's only 18.2 horsepower per pound. You get into something like the 2.7, it's 19.7, and the 3.5 liter EcoBoost is only at 15. It's 1 bar of boost. So that thing's at 26.7 horsepower per pound of boost. So that will give you an idea just how hard they're hitting that thing. By the way, the Ram, or I say Ram, the 30HO and the 30SO are both either tied or are making the absolute most boost out of the whole group. 22 PSI for the standard output, same as the 2.7 4-banger that GM offers in their trucks, which is embarrassing. But also for the 30HO is making 26 pounds of boost. Now they're getting away with that with gasoline, but you know what? They are. And that's 400 horsepower and 500 horsepower and roughly 500 pound-feet of torque. Now, what's that going to go into? Well, be going into Wranglers and Grand Cherokees. And, you know, if they can get something cool for that thing to go into, it's supposed to be a revised version of the LX platform that it may be able to go into, which would be your Challengers and Chargers. We'll just have to see. But the reality is I just don't, man, listen, don't get me to line because I wasn't in the room when they were designing these things, but I mean, aluminum block, 22, 26 pounds of boost, whatever. The fact of the matter is that they're running boost numbers that modifiers of the Ford motors don't necessarily want to go to when they modify these things. And Ram's going there with these boost numbers because they have to get that kind of power out of an engine that's only 3 liters. So it's barely bigger than the 2.7 in the Ford and the 4-cylinder 2.7 that's in the GM. I would have been a lot happier. I would have felt better. Like in my heart of heart, guys, I would have felt a lot better about that engine if it was a 4-liter, 3.5 liter at least. But a 4-liter, it may be 12 pounds of boost or 14 pounds of boost, making 425 horsepower, 430 horsepower, and 500 pound-feet of torque or whatever. I would have felt a lot better about that than I feel about what these 3.0s are looking like now. And I understand you can engineer anything to do anything, but the fact is it's just a whole lot of boost for not a lot of power until you maybe put, I don't know, some hybridization in with it. Now that could be something we're talking about. Definitely if we're talking about that with an LX platform, you'd almost have to, just to pull some of the load out of it maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but little bitty motor with a whole lot of boost. I know they do it a lot overseas, but man, it's a whole lot of heat, whole lot of leaning on components that I don't know. We'll see how it ends up working out. Proof's in the pudding, and I will be pleased to be proven wrong in this respect. Chuck Rye saying I buy a 2021 Scat Pack Challenger and you buy a Ram a week later. Very cool. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Now, Chuck picked up an absolutely gorgeous 21 Scatty. it's a hell raising, which is quickly evolving to one of my favorite colors on these cars. Oh, Yagas is asking, congratulations. Are you going to put a 6.4 intake manifold or a full bolt-on series with a model cam? That would be a cool series build. This is going to be a long, slow process with this truck. I am more than likely. So here's the thing. If the 6.4 intake manifold will work with the e-torque, it may get a 6.4 intake manifold. I'm not sure that it will. Mainly because the e-torque takes up so much room on the front of that engine. I'm not sure how all of that works together. I mean, if the 5.7 intake fits, the 6.4 should fit, but that's coming with a question mark. Wouldn't go with a cam with this truck. I've thought about it, though, but again, it just kind of walks outside of the range of what I want to do in terms of spending money. But at some point, set a long tube headers, definitely wake it up a little bit. I may or may not pull this manifold off to port it. This truck runs really good. And the later 5.7 manifolds have all been really good that I've seen. So I don't know that I'm going to have to really mess with it. Obviously, there's going to be some tuning involved with this thing at some point. But right now, I am having so much fun driving this thing. Obviously, exhaust is going to have to happen. I'm having so much fun driving this thing that I can see why some folks just don't jump through hoops to put these trucks on a drag strip. I haven't really seen any. And it's my understanding that, guys really aren't jumping into the middle of the DT platform for racing for whatever reason. I have no idea. It might have been timing. 19 was a little bit of a weird year with that bug that was going around, but the reality is that we've got 3 years worth of this truck being around and not a lot. I just haven't heard a whole lot of, guys raving about tuning it or anything like that. Here's something that I will say. This is what I was going to try to touch on with these trucks. So when I did that quick intro video today, I was pointing some things out, but I want to get into a few things about how much power is this thing really making? I haven't seen one on a dyno, but I can only assume that when you remove the clutch fan, you're picking up about 15 horsepower to the rear wheels, give or take, at least 10. And it's got a considerably better Y pipe than the DS had on it. So there's that. It's lighter in general by at least 100, at least 90 to 100 pounds in my case. So, and that's if you were to equip my truck with a tonneau cover and a roll-in bed liner. So you would think that these things would be a natural to find at a drag strip, but apparently, a lot of guys have already sunk their money into DSs anyway, right? So that would at least answer that portion. But I tell you what, it's more and more fun just driving the thing and enjoying it. And I cannot get over how nicely that truck rides, though. The way that it soaks up bumps, it's quiet. It'll make engine noises when you roll into it, but the thing is just quiet in general. So it's just such a much nicer truck, and it just feels more thought out with how it was put together. So, but I mean, it's had the opportunity to have been vetted against a platform that's been out since forever. Like the DT is the first drastic change for the truck platform, at least as far as I can tell, in any real amount of time. So with the DT being released, I got to tell you, I couldn't be happier with that truck. And again, with the door detent, finally somebody figured out that putting a spinny old school, cam style detent is not very good. I can't shut mine up. It's always, it sounds terrible. But I don't know, it kind of is what it is. The best thing about that DT, though, is that it just absolutely rips. But again, I don't know. I can kind of see why guys might not want to mess with it. You get into the thing and it rides so good and it's so nice. I don't know. We'll start seeing guys hot rodding these things before you know it. But in the meantime, I think guys are just too busy enjoying the ride and, playing with the sound system and all the doodads and gadgets that they have. Chuck saying he's hanging on to the Scat for good. Very nice. You're gonna love that car. The cool thing about the Scat is that it's a. I mean, you can hold on to that thing for a long time, and it'll always be fun. Oh, Sovereign's saying it's only natural. Yeah, a lot of folks move up to the 6.4. Hang on just a second. What happened here? I think I just bumped over everybody. Yeah, I think I did. Chuck saying it's 5.7 sold in a week. No kidding. Oh yeah, Sovereign put up the video for my for the hurricane chat. Really good, a little bit heady. Some of the latest stuff that I've done with the spreadsheets and all that, real tech heavy, but I'm kind of a tech heavy dude. And so I like to get you guys that info also. And yeah, Sovereign's liking Chuck's saying congrats on the 6.4. That'd be my setup of choice. They are very nice. Oh, Sovereign saying, I know the 3.0 is more powerful, but it lacks the V8 sound, so that could be a problem for some. You know what? I love the way inline 6s sound. I'm one of those weird guys that just kind of geeks out over inline 6s. Anything overhead cam, 4-valve inline 6, they sound amazing. The problem that I have is when you start making that kind of power, a whole lot of torque, and you're in a heavy truck, that's where it kind of scares me a little bit, because that's a whole lot of load. Load is heat. And well, to be honest, it just kind of scares me a little bit, putting that kind of power through such a small displacement to move such a large vehicle and have it being run on gasoline. I know that, diesels have been small displacement and have been, dragging around heavy loads for a long time. I understand that with, comparatively, like, relatively small displacement to the weight of the vehicle, but I don't know. For the gas stuff, it just kind of, I don't know enough. I mean, listen, I'm always open to be educated. So I would love for somebody to let me know how they're managing knock with cylinder pressure as high as it's got to be, with boost pressure, which, mind you, that's inlet temperature, that's heat being pumped into those cylinders. So how are they managing that? How much intercooling is involved? There's a lot of ways you can get around this, but you got to remember, if you're boosting something to 22, 26 PSI and you're running it through significant coolers to cool it off, if your manifold pressure is 26, let's say, and you're running it through a series of coolers and everything else, you're at the inlet of all your cooling ducting, you're probably sitting at 32 PSI. The equivalent, in other words, because of the heat. And then, of course, as the air goes through the coolers, it comes in, it condenses, it takes up less space for the same amount of air, so pressure goes down. And so that's how you lose boost when everything goes through an intercooler. It's not that the intercooler is a restriction, it's that it's cooling the thing. And so your volume isn't as high, but your oxygen content is still the same. Oh, Chuck saying, hey, Sovereign, thanks. No hate on the 5.7. I spent 2 years in it. It was just time to advance, and they had the exact build I was looking for. See, that's the thing. You got to buy it when it's the right one. You got to pick it up. Baseline interior, raw street muscle, 392. I love that. That's so awesome. That's where he said, I'm hanging on to the Scat for good. There we go. I think I caught up. So just so you know, every once in a while, the feed will just go, it'll like adjust up. And so if I'm not looking right at it and I don't notice it, then that's how this goofy stuff can happen. Chuck's saying, Sovereign, new Hellcats are ridiculously overpriced these days. Not disappointing in the Scat, and the Torque Flight 20 is sweet. Yes, it is. It is menacing, indeed. Siren saying, oh, he's saying he doesn't think he'll ever know what it feels like to be in a 6'4", any challenger for that matter. The only one I ever sat in or got to start up was a demon. That's it. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Demons are nice. That's what Chuck's saying. Siren saying he loved the experience. Awesome. Oh, Sovereign saying, here's my video on it. Very cool. Chuck's asking, what are the tires on the Ram? They're the Goodyear. Let's see how that goes. Goodyear Wranglers, though, on the Ram. 275. What are they? 275 60 18s. Hang on. Maybe 275 65. Bear with. I'll tell you exactly what they are. I got a little bit wrapped up in 20-inch wheel when I was doing all of the comparisons. I got a little bit wrapped up in wheel and tire stuff for the 20s, and I forgot. Hang on, let me pull this back up. Sorry, bear with me just a second. I can tell you exactly what it is because it is 100.77 is the circumference, 275 65 18. For comparison, by the way, that's a 100.77 circumference, which doesn't tell you much. 32-inch tall tire, 32.1 to be exact. The 20s are just slightly shorter, if it matters at all. It really doesn't statistically on here. 275 55 20, which they moved from 275 60 20. That was a 33-inch tall tire, and that did affect the final drive ratio enough to where it would pretty much screw up the comparison. I'll give you an example of that. That would be the old 20-inch wheel and tire combination. What I say, 103.60. Let me do this real quick. I don't know if I ever did this one for you guys in that last video. Let me get this going here. Bear with me. You guys, I make spreadsheets for all this stuff. That's just kind of what I do. So 103.60, and then let me pull up the transmission ratios for the HP 70. This will help me to give you guys the comparison here. Sorry, and all you're doing is you're watching my head move around like this and all of that. But if you have this thing, oh, why do you hate me? So let's say you have a what is this thing doing? Let's say you've got a DS, and that's got the HP 70 ratios, which, I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with. They're just not as aggressive of ratios. So to give you guys an idea, the 321 gear in the 321 gear is going to have top speed in first gear at 5,500 RPM, basically 32 and a half miles an hour, 32.7-ish. The 392 is going to be at 29.22. And that may not seem like a big difference, but it kind of is. And the way that it works out, do something a little bit different here. Let's switch these things around so I can give you guys a little bit better idea for what I'm talking about. What it ends up acting like, if you're to do the two comparatively against each other, sorry, it's going to take just a second. I got to pull data from some spots here, and be about 5 seconds. I should have an answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So if you're comparing a 392 with the HP 70 and the 321, oh, I screwed that all up. How did I manage that? Oh, Lord. I'm out. Well, I butchered that all up. There we go. What you're going to find is mile per hour, again, very similar. in first gear. And that's basically because it's equivalent. Hang on. Oh, I'm screwing this all up. Sorry. I need to fix that too. Hold on. So what happens when you have to start butchering up some of these spreadsheets? I just want to get you guys some data here. All right. So mile per hour in gear, it's kind of funny that it's a lot closer in first gear. I wanted to say it was basically like running a set of 340 gears by comparison. Yeah, it's like having 340 gears in the DT. And then it gets into like 327s. It never really drops below that 321 number. It's always a little bit more aggressive. And that's important because when you're working with effective gear ratios, little bitty differences can end up, they really do make quite a bit of difference. So the main thing is just to look at it from the point of view of, how much do you value highway versus how much do you value at regular acceleration, with the HP 75 being more aggressive. And it's even softer on 7 and 8. You've got a 0.64 overdrive in the HP 75 versus a 0.67. You've got 0.82 versus 0.84. It doesn't sound like a lot, but again, you got to remember, every small amount helps. And this is why the 321 is going to get better fuel economy, being able to accelerate super hard down low, has awesome highway gears. It's just tough for me to pick against the 321 now. Now, that's not to say that 392 doesn't feel great, especially at partial throttle, just driving the thing around. It's got a lot of pickup, but you start getting into the gear ratios along with tire sizing, and the DS with a 392, especially if you get a heavily equipped one, is even down low partial throttle, which is in that 392's wheelhouse. That's where the 321 is going to be basically the same as that thing from a field perspective. Chuck saying demons are sick, but definitely overpriced. Yes, they are. Chuck's saying he's had mixed opinions of the 275/40 ZR20 Pirellis on the Scat. They seem to be gripping just fine on tip in. They're not bad. They're actually really good in general. One of the things that I noticed about the Pirellis is that they're a good, I know they've got a fancy sounding name, but they're a really good kind of a middle of the road type of tire. I haven't really found any faults with it. I can tell you that, I really like the Aturos, mainly just because they're inexpensive, and I always run them on the front of my truck or front of my car, and they always seem to work really well. And when it comes time to put tires on the truck, I'll probably put Aturos on it. They're originally actually known for their SUV and truck tires. But make sure I got everybody in this one. Very cool. But hopefully, guys, you guys are able to get, it's kind of a cool story, with that truck. Again, just wanted to bring y'all into the mix with that. Probably the first mods will be some kind of an exhaust mod. Maybe followed with dropping the rear end down a little bit to level the truck out. I'm not going to bring the front up. I'll probably just drop it down a little bit. And really that's going to be what starts it off. And then from there, it's just putting miles on the thing, putting it to work, getting it out there, get the leather done in the truck, which I really can't wait for, and get the rubber floors in the truck, which again, I'm really looking forward to that too. Make it a lot easier to maintain and keep clean. And then from there, we'll see where it goes. I mean, I'm really excited, but I'm also, the main thing I am with this truck is just pleasantly surprised. When it came to the Ford, and again, I will have a standalone type video that'll just talk about my experience with the Ford and why I didn't buy the F-150, even though I walked into the place with my checkbook fully expecting to be ordering a truck. It really did come down to the sales people. The first guy I dealt with, really good guy, but he unfortunately got sick. I think he got the Rona, actually. Anyway, he was off, and so worked with another guy briefly, but I didn't see him when I got to the dealership. Ended up working with yet another dude. And the problem with this is that the yet another dude was just, I hate speaking ill of somebody when they're not here to defend themselves. But the guy just didn't have a clue. He was unfortunately incapable of understanding what I meant when I said that if you get this done, I will sign paperwork today. When I was talking about putting the 373 gear in the F-150, I don't need to be the guy that knows more than the guy sitting on the other side of the desk when it comes to his vehicles. I don't need to be the guy that educates somebody on what is and what isn't available. You can kind of see where I'm going with this, guys, right? I mean, you know where I'm going with this, and you know the mentality, and you can probably understand my disposition when I'm seeing this as a teachable moment, and I ain't getting paid for my services. So, because the guy couldn't put any of this together, I had to split. So, anyway, story for another day. We'll definitely get into that in a standalone video. Again, I'm not going to knock anybody down. I'm certainly not going to say that, buying a Ford is a bad idea. Ford makes a great product. And there were some things about at least the Fords that I drove that were different, frankly, from other F-150s that I had driven in the past. In fact, this is going back some years, but there was a point in time. Well, there was a point in time where I had test driven a 365, I think it was a 365 horse, 3.5 liter EcoBoost 4x4 Ford with 355 gears. And it had the 10 speed. I think it had 355. Anyway, but it was a lower horsepower. It was not the high horsepower engine that we have today. And the truck would just go through gears. It felt like a diesel to me when I was driving it. But the one thing I noticed about it, and keep in mind, I had an 09 F-150. I mean, that was Whitey. And Whitey I had that truck for quite a few years. And it's one of those trucks I just really kind of feel like I should have never gotten rid of it, but cam phasers, right? You know what I mean? So, but anyway, getting back to it, Whitey was a great truck, and I never rode weird. The Fords that I drove, each and every one of them felt strange to me. It was the suspension. The Ford just felt like it was allergic to the road. It just did not want to touch it. The Ford felt real jittery. It felt nervous all the time. It felt nervous no matter what I did with it, though. The suspension on any undulating surfaces was skittish. Driving it, the way that the engine felt, partial throttle downshifts, it didn't know what to do. It was, should I go to this gear or that gear? And it would never seem to make it just couldn't get lucky. I mean, eventually you can roll a 7, right? This thing just would never freaking figure it out. And I drove 3 of these trucks. The one thing that they did well was haul ass from a dig. I mean, sorta. I mean, they ran good, but here's the weird thing. The Ford to me felt like, compared to the Ram, because you guys know I came into this really hyping the F-150, right? But here's what my takeaway was, and one of the reasons why I did decide to keep pursuing the Ram. The Ford, to me, whether it had the 5.0 or the 3.5 liter, I didn't really mess with the 2.7. That's on me, but I'm glad that I didn't. The 5.0 and the 3.5 felt like they only needed and could realistically use 4 out of the 10 gears that it had. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Let's say you're in a 5.0 or 3.5 liter, whatever, and you go watt with the throttle. You get a little bit of dig out, truck takes off, 1, and it revs to 6,500 RPM. 2, get to the top of 2nd, you're going 60 miles an hour. 3, the thing starts to just carry. And at that point, it just seems to not ever want to shift. It's just like the Mustang. It's just going and going and going and going and accelerating, accelerating at a not very impressive G load, but a really impressive sound. And it's moving out. Don't get me wrong. But you eventually get out of the throttle. You've only used 3 gears out of the 10. And at this point, you get out of it. And then you go into an overdrive. And so that's all you would necessarily need with this thing. You don't get the bam, bam, all the theater and everything else that the Mopar is doing, and not really feeling it. The Dodge felt faster, guys. On paper, it's not. I don't care about what the on paper says, because when you're driving the Dodge, it just feels like it knows what it's doing, as opposed to being skittish and frantic and, oh, am I doing it right? And the Dodge's like, cool, man, do it. You want to haul ass? We can haul ass. You want to chill? We can chill. Take it smooth. Or if you wanted something that rips around corners, the Dodge does a really good job at that, especially with the 18-inch wheels, apparently, I guess, for me anyway. But get a load of this. The Ford, on a partial throttle downshift, this is where, oh my God, I hate to say this, because I know you guys that like Fords are going to be like, oh, dude, really? But here's the thing. On partial throttle downshifts, where the 5.7 will just whoosh you along, whether it's 321 or 392 gears, doesn't matter. It will whoosh you along with these partial throttle downshifts, and you've got them everywhere. You get a little bit. You want a little bit more? Oh, you want a little bit more? Okay. And then with the 321, it's to Valhalla we go, and this thing takes off and Mr. hides it. So I love that about the 321 gear at like that 65 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour hit. You guys that have them, that you know what I'm talking about. The 5, this sucks, man. I hate talking like this about it. The 5.0, and it's not the drivetrain's fault. It's the way that they option these trucks. The 5.0, when it downshifts, it feels like it just hates life. It's real. It's like emo. It's like, oh God, we gotta accelerate. Fine. Vroom. That's what I get out of it, because there was a portion of the test drive there was a portion of the test drive of the F-150 on 2 different occasions. So I tried to replicate this at like 65 or whatever, 70 miles an hour. You roll into it, and it had one downshift that it went to, and it dropped down, or I say dropped down. It dropped down 1 or 2 years, whatever it was, and it was at basically 4,000 RPM, and I kept rolling into the throttle, and nothing was really happening anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, where's the beef on a part throttle downshift? Because to me, that's kind of a big deal. I'm a big partial throttle guy too. It's part of the, does it have good torque at partial throttle, good tip-in throttle response? And my God, the freaking 5.0 is just, it did not want to run. And this happened a couple of times to the point where I was like, okay, this is how this thing really is. Now, had that truck had a 373 gear, I have a feeling my opinion would have been completely different about it. And, well, I wouldn't have been able to option the truck that I wanted with that gear anyway. And the guy that I was talking to did not understand why I wanted a 373 gear in the truck, and he didn't understand why I was willing to pay for it to be installed. And if you wanted me to sign paperwork that day, you agree to do it for me as part of the deal, since you're being so gracious as to only charge me sticker for my truck. Yeah, you're going to be giving me something. Trust me. There's going to be a lot of giving me something if I'm paying sticker for a dadgum work truck, right? But anyway, had that truck been re-geared, the whole situation would have been different. Yeah, sort of. See, the thing is I did drive a 3.5 liter EcoBoost with a 373 gear. And it kind of sort of did the same thing. It's just it wasn't as drastic. I was hoping that I could find a 5.0 with a 373 gear. They just didn't have one on the lot. That would have been their highest trim level, by the way. Which is bullshit, because Ram will let you put a 392 gear in anything that isn't a TRX, but they'll let you put a 392 gear in every naturally aspirated V8 that they make. It doesn't matter if it's a Laramie. It doesn't matter if it's the Texas stuff. It doesn't matter. You want it in a Tradesman. You want it in your Lone Star. You want it in your Laramie. You can get it whatever you want to get. You want a 392? You get a 392 in anything. But here's prick Ford being all little Miss Control Freak and not letting you do what you want to do with a truck. And to me, that sucked. Like, that really did. That was something that I just couldn't let it slide. And the fact that the guy just didn't get it. I mean, you can't have somebody like that sitting on the other side of a desk looking at the same build your own website that I'm looking at. Can't do that. So anyway, Sovereign's asked if I'm going to put a liner in the bed. Yeah, I'll put a spray in bed liner or something like that. Just something to, something to protect. I don't want to be scratching paint or anything like that when I'm throwing stuff in the back of it. Buffy's got the factory spray and bed liner, and it's actually held up really well. Roy saying, put you a bull bar on the front of the Stormy. She ain't getting a bull bar. Chuck's asking if I could expand more on the Ram engine. Of course I can. Saying, when the Hellcat swap? No. So basically, it's pretty simple deal. Basically 395 horse, 410 foot-pounds of torque is what it's rated at. It's rated at that without the e-torque, mainly because the e-torque, when it does activates at a torque level that wouldn't change the main torque number, which is further out at like 4,250. All of the e-torque takes place, I think, before or at a maximum RPM of 2,000 RPM, give or take. And I think it also activates in between shifts. But primarily at lower speeds, lower RPM. And again, it just doesn't affect final advertised numbers. It's typical 5.7, except in this case, it's a typical 5.7 truck engine, meaning that it's got the short runner valve actuators, where the cars do not have that. The Durangos don't have it either. And again, it's a e-torque motor, which is kind of interesting because, I mean, first of all, that standalone pulley and belt thing for the water pump, I thought was kind of neat. Weird at first, but neat. I don't know how you get the belt on because there's no adjustment. I guess you just Popeye that thing on there. Anyway, it still has the log style manifolds going into two big old catalytic converters, which is good. Real high flow units. Look like the same units that are on the Scat Packs and the Hellcats. Feeding into a nice 2.5-inch Y pipe going into a 3-inch main pipe. And then that hits the muffler and then branches off into 2.25-inch pipes. So it's a pretty stout, pretty potent combination. And the weird thing about it is, okay, so let's talk about that e-torque thing for a little bit. Again, it doesn't really add any final, you're not going to affect maximum numbers, but it does affect right when you go to take off. That's really kind of when you can feel it a little bit, although I don't know if am I really feeling that? Anyway, it feels like, and Matt was really good with how he explained it. It's like you've got a pedal, like a pedal commander almost on the truck with, you tip into the throttle just a little bit and the truck just kind of goes. It's like it's the equivalent of if you put like an old school pedal commander on like level 2 out of 3. You know what I mean? It just kicks it up a little bit just on tip in throttle, which again, if you're a tip in throttle guy, partial throttle torque response guy, which most people are, whether you just know it or not, that's what you notice when you drive. Man, this thing runs good. That's what you're noticing. And it just kind of whooshes you. It's just kind of a light nudge, if you will. It's just a little bit of a persuading movement to get you going. I guess that's the way it was explained to me, or sort of the way it was explained to me. It's the way that I understand it. And so there's that. One of the weird things, though, is it will do the regen thing. And this is something that, believe it or not, I actually like about that truck. So if you're slowing down and you just barely touch on the brake, it will start the regen process. And the regen process is just basically it, creating force on the crank that's slowing the thing down. I'm thinking, dude, what kind of pin is on the crank of this thing? But anyway, it's, slowing the thing down and works out pretty good. So, but it's weird because you'll feel it. You'll feel it just kind of, like, oh, what was that? At first, but it's almost, it feels like it's downshifting. It feels almost like it's in sport mode, downshifting. And in a way it kind of is, I guess, because it's going through regen, just building up more electricity for the battery pack. So that's kind of an interesting thing about having e-torque. And the other thing is obviously the start stop, which is kind of I don't know, it almost feels like it's a loophole with trying to pull, I don't know, miles per gallon out of one of these things. But the start stop thing, I'll put it to you like this. If you're used to start stop technology, this is right up your alley because you've already lived through it and you already know what to expect. The first time it did it, I didn't realize that it had the start stop, and I was pulling the thing into I just got through driving it, Stormy, for the very first time, and I was pulling into I was pulling into the dealership, and I was kind of stopped as I was negotiating pulling into a parking spot, and the truck died. And I went, uh-oh. It died. And he's like, oh, no, it's start stop. If you take your foot off the brake, it fires right back up. You take your foot off the brake and it just vrooms right back to life. The thing is I'm not going to say that it's seamless, because it's not seamless, but it works. And I mean, I don't really know what I'm supposed to expect out of start stop technology, but I can tell you what I can tell you, and that is that button is getting pushed a lot. I mean, I hop in the thing, hit the button, and then I'm, put it in gear. When it goes into drive, I hit the start stop, no thank you button. So, so that's just kind of where I'm at with that. That is funny. When's the Hellcat swap? Yeah, probably not going to happen on this one. Oh, Chuck saying my previous Dodge dealership will not get another dime from me. My new dealer is way better in many ways. Biggest factor, they gave me false information on my shaker and didn't answer my questions. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, one of the dealers I was working with, I kind of felt bad about, because I mean the guy, I'd been working with him a little bit, and he was real receptive, real helpful, and it just sometimes the timing wasn't right. Like when I needed to talk to him, he was out for the day or whatever. Not that he wasn't calling me back, it was just real stutter stepped. And with my schedule, it's one of those things where, not that it matters, but if I have the time to make that type of a phone call, it's only because I've firewalled that conversation between two other conversations that I've either just had or I'm about to have, and I just don't. If I don't have the conversation, then it ends up being put on the back burner. So anyway, he was working with me really well, but it was when I was trying to put together the tradesmen, and I'm the one that found out, going, yeah, man, these tradesmen are really highly incentivized. Maybe I need to be looking at tradesmen and see if I can just swap some things out. If there's that much money on the table, I can use some of that to do some things to this truck to make it what I want. So anyway, like it doesn't really matter. The dealership that I went to had it, and now we're just all super happy. Oh, Chuck saying his new dealer called me, made sure everything was okay with my car, and the staff is much more knowledgeable on muscle cars. Very good to hear. And that means something. When you want to be talking to somebody that knows something about what you're buying, especially when you're going to shell out as much money as you're going to spend on one of these vehicles, you kind of want to be working with people that speak your language, if you will. And man, a lot of times car dealerships, they only speak car dealerships. They're not car people. They just happen to sell cars and car-related accessories. And that's really it, right? So, to any salesperson out there, by the way, that if I didn't buy something from you on the Dodge side, don't take it personally. It's just that this dealership had exactly what I wanted on the lot, and I didn't have to wait for it, didn't have to order it. For anybody in the Ford dealership that I was working with, except for the first guy that I worked with, who was really good, really great, awesome guy. Hate that he didn't get a sale out of all of this, because just bad luck. It just is the way everything worked out. To the GM guy, look, man, I hope things get better for you, dude. Because that guy, he seemed like a nice enough guy. He just seemed like he had just been absolutely beaten up. And listen, he works for a Chevrolet, so I mean, can you blame the poor guy? But guys, that's pretty much it. That's the story. Really cool story behind this. Again, the stars aligned, like y'all were saying, and it just worked out great. So I'm looking forward to bringing you guys some updates and some contents with this thing as things develop, and tune back in and see what we do. So with that, guys, I am going to wrap it up for the night. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. You're going to sit it, don't bend it, keep your shiny side up. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one. We will see y'all on Tuesday. Adios.